Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of the Terry Show. I want to start with a couple of questions. Does this sound like you? I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want them to think. I don't want to seem difficult. I don't want them to think I'm a drama queen. Anyone? Does that sound familiar to you? Because if it does, this episode is for you. It's all about how you can become your own boundary boss without all the guilt. Because so much of the time when we're saying, oh, I don't want them to think, or I just want it to be nice, we are self-abandoning and we are not setting boundaries that we need to set. So that's what this entire episode of the Terri Show is going to be about. I'm also giving you a really amazing guide where I'm going to be giving you a bunch of scripts, which I'll tell you about later. So if you're nodding your head and this is you, well, then you're in the right place today. Lucky you. Before we get started, if you're new to this YouTube channel, please introduce yourself in the comments because we are a very friendly crew. Also, make sure that you are subscribed. I don't want to harp, but I'm just saying. Apparently, 67% of people who regularly watch this channel are not subscribed. Why? It's free. Just do it. It'll make me happy. Also, make sure that you hit the bell icon so that you get notified every time I roll out new stuff for you, which is every Tuesday and every Thursday, because I do it for you, because you are literally the people I am creating this content for. All right, why don't we move it on into today's episode, shall we? I think we shall. All right. So if those phrases were familiar, I don't want to hurt their feelings, all of those things, a lot of times we say those things because we think that is being kind. Certainly, that's why I said it. That's why I did it back in the day when I was super high functioning codependent. I really thought I was being nice. And I think that most people who are behaving this way because they think it's nice. But it's not. Right? It actually isn't real kindness. If we're talking about kindness, that is sort of like self-abandonment masquerading or dressed up as politeness. If you are an HFC, if you relate to this, and you've been doing it since birth, right? We've been doing it since childhood because we were trained to make other people comfortable at our own expense, right? At the expense of our own discomfort. And in fact, for me, I never even thought about my comfort or discomfort, for that matter. I really was pretty much solely focused on other people, right? So we silence our needs to not rock the boat or say yes when we really want to say hell no. Part of this is confusing being liked with being safe, right? When you think about why don't we want there to be conflict or drama? Why don't we want to provoke someone into something? Because it doesn't feel safe. And so that really does make sense. But the cost is so high, you guys, and there's a better way to do it, right? So let's talk. I'm just going to go back to the basics of what personal boundaries actually are. And, spoiler alert, they're not about controlling other people, which a lot of times, at least in my youth, I wouldn't have recognized that that's what I was doing, but that's what I was doing. A lot of people think that boundaries are just about saying no to others, which it's not that. I mean, it's that, but it's not only that, right? Boundaries aren't really about keeping people out. They're about keeping you safe, sane, and sovereign within. That's really what our boundaries are about. They're really not about other people. It's really about us. So what are they? They are your preferences, right? What you want and don't want. Your limits, right? What's okay with you and what is not okay with you. And your deal breakers, right? What you will walk away from every time, right? We all need to have them. Those are the things, according to Terri Cole, that make up your boundaries. They are internal, right? They are value-based, like what matters to you, which is why your boundaries are so unique to you. Right? And there's no way to say someone's right or wrong because the same way that our values are unique to us. And they're a practice in self-ownership, not punishment, not pushback, although sometimes we need to push back, but that's not the main thing, right? Boundaries aren't walls. They are doors or bridges that you control as opposed to other people. And they only feel mean when you are raised to believe that your needs we're a threat to someone else. I mean, as I always say, we can always set boundaries with kindness, with compassion, with love, right? And if need be, with a little bit more heat. So let's break down the types of boundaries that we have, because obviously it's so much more than saying no. So there's no one size fits all, as I was just saying. In fact, there's 5 core categories of boundaries, right? And when one of these is out of alignment, you will feel it in your body, you will feel it in your relationships, you will feel it in your mood. So here's the breakdown. We have physical boundaries. This is your personal space, right? Your body, physical touch. Example of having a physical boundary is, I'm not comfortable hugging right now, or I would prefer a handshake over a hug. Emotional boundaries is your right to own your feelings, right? Not absorbing other people's feelings. Example is, I understand you're upset, but I need space to process, right? So that would be prioritizing what you need in that moment over what the other person needs. It's really knowing, like, what is your pain emotionally and what is someone else's. Mental boundaries, now this is your thoughts, your values, your beliefs, right? It's like your intellectual freedom. Example, I respect your opinion, but I think differently, right? It means we're allowed to have a difference of opinion with other people. And we assert that difference. That is considered a mental boundary. Material boundaries are your possessions, your money, right? And time as a resource, because really that is the most expensive coin you ever spend, especially as you age, is your time. For an example, you can say, I can't lend my car this weekend, or I don't lend money, right? It's not personal. It's just a policy. And I'm going to have a bunch of scripts for you, so don't worry. It's going to be the boundary script kit, 5 types of boundaries and what to say in each. So that's what I'm giving you as the guide. So you get that at terricole.com/guide. And then energetic boundaries. Let's talk about those. Your capacity, presence, spiritual and emotional energy. Example of having a boundary here is, I'm not available to talk right now. If you know that you don't have the bandwidth to talk to that person. Part of the problem, like with my therapy clients and in my own experience of having difficulty with boundaries, is there's all these myths that really do persist around boundaries. And I just don't want to be selfish, or I don't want to seem selfish, or I don't want them to think I'm selfish. Now this is like an all-time classic of what we're afraid of being perceived as not generous, right? Especially when you think about, if you were someone who was raised as a woman, think about how much niceness, how important that was to be perceived, right? I don't even know if people cared if you actually were nice. It was like this perception of being nice. And it seemed like, it's like we were all indoctrinated into the cult of nice. And that was more important than so many other things. So when we say, I just don't want to seem selfish, here's the truth about it. That you abandoning your needs, this is not like the noble pursuit that it may feel like it is, because it's unnecessary. It's like throwing yourself under the bus for no reason. And it often leads to the very thing that you want to avoid, which is resentment, burnout, disconnection from other people, right? You teach people how to treat you by what you allow, right? What you stop and what you reinforce. So think about that. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow, right? You get what you tolerate. And I think that's true, but that's slightly cynical for me. So I like this phrase that I tell my clients better. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow, what you stop, and what you reinforce. So we're endlessly telling people how to treat us with what we do and don't. We may try to assert a boundary or complain about something, but if we don't reinforce it, things don't usually change, or they don't stay changed. So if you're always available, if you never say no, right, if you're constantly picking up the slack for others and pretending to be fine, you're really not being kind, like it may feel. You're training others to ignore your needs because you are ignoring them first. What do I always say? The relationship you have with yourself is the most important relationship you'll ever have in your life. Why? Because it sets the bar for every other relationship. People look to you. So when you ignore your needs, so do they, right? Which is exactly what we don't want. Because when you really think about it, your personal boundaries are kind of like a radical act of self-respect, right? Of self-consideration. And here's the part that really hits the hardest. If you don't define your boundaries, someone else will. And that's a fact. Because if we're just accepting what's happening, someone else is the director of this movie. That's supposed to be you as the star and the director and the producer and the writer. A lot of times I'll give the example of you when you are not asserting your boundaries. It's like you being a little boat, and almost like life and other people's boundaries and desires and thoughts and needs and limits. They become the tsunami of your life. They dictate the weather of what happens to you. As we get healthier and as we flex this muscle of healthily setting boundaries and be able to communicate it with the scripts that I'm going to give you, we're changing that scenario so that now we are the weather and our life is the boat, right? We are dictating, we are determining, not what other people are doing, what we are doing, what we will do, right? Which is why I always say, when clients a lot of times will focus on sort of the wrong things in a situation. They'll be in a situation that's hurtful or something that they're tolerating but they don't want to. And they'll say, but why would that person do that? Why would they do it? And that is the wrong question. The right question is, now that they have done it, what am I going to do? Right? Where is my limit? Where is my boundary? Where am I deciding what is okay and what is not? Right? So when we don't define our boundaries, someone else does. And the thing is, most people won't do that with your best interest in mind, right? They're doing it based on what's convenient for them, what's best for them, unless you're asserting yourself. So setting personal boundaries, what does it look like? What does it sound like? No, I'm actually not available, right? Without over-explaining. Choosing to rest, right? Even when someone else wants just one more thing, just being like, no, it doesn't work, right? Letting other people sit with their feelings without rescuing them. So what does that mean? Not auto-advice giving, not jumping in, not putting on the cape. It looks like ending conversations that feel manipulative or draining, asking for what you need, and expecting it to matter to the important people in your life. And I always say this about relationships. Your person, your people, your close people, your VIPs, they don't necessarily have to understand why you're upset about something. But if they're that close to you, they most definitely need to care about how you feel, Because boundaries aren't just about what you stop doing. They're about what you start allowing yourself to have space, right? Clarity, self-trust. It's like what you are giving yourself by having boundaries, right? Because we only have so much space. There's a finite amount of bandwidth that you have as a human being. So then people will say to me on the interwebs, well, what if people get mad that I set a boundary? And I say, they might. And actually, for some people, they're quite likely to, especially if they've benefited from you not having boundaries. So when you start honoring your limits, two things happen. The people who matter, the people who love you, will adjust and respect you more. And hey, there may be some growing pains. I'm not saying that they're going to be amazing and throwing you a parade for it. But because the way you feel matters and what you want matters, they will make it matter to them because you matter to them. And if people who were using you for your lack of boundaries, those people will not love it. That's all. They just won't love it. But nobody's going to die, right? That discomfort, that's not your burden to carry if those people don't love it. Here's the truth that I come back to a lot in all the years that I've been studying this and talking about this. When you say yes to others, make sure you're not saying no to yourself or something that's important to you, because sometimes that's exactly what we're doing. And when you have healthy boundaries, you're not doing that. So here's the thing, you guys. The more authentic you is waiting on the other side of the limits that you set with other people, right? Or the no that you don't give but you want to. But when you start, this is where we start to have expansion to be able to grow into who we are, decide who we want to be, right? But if you've spent years people pleasing, overgiving, managing other people's emotions, it might feel terrifying to set boundaries. And I see you and I feel you. But here's the secret, the truth. Boundaries do not create distance. They create clarity. You've got to know what you need. You've got to know your preferences, your limits, your deal breakers. Because healthy boundaries, they allow you to show up in your fullness, right? Not only out of obligation or not saying yes but being bitter about it, And they teach people in your life how to have real intimacy with you, because now, when we're sharing our boundaries and our limits and our preferences, we are literally sharing our true self with the people in our lives. And you guys, I say this all the time, but I really want this to sink in. You are so incredibly worth knowing. You are so worth knowing. And so if you're people-pleasing and appeasing your life away, the saddest, most tragic part is that people do not know you. So are you ready to build boundaries that stick in your life? Because this isn't about becoming hard or cold. It's about becoming whole, right? All of you. And if this hits home, you guys, Boundary Bootcamp is where we do the deeper work. It is happening. In Boundary Bootcamp, we will go into identifying your hidden guilt triggers, speaking your boundaries clearly and calmly, navigating pushback without folding, and also without getting too heated, building internal boundaries so you can stop abandoning yourself on autopilot, and oh my God, so much more. So join Boundary Bootcamp now and become the boundary boss of your own life. We start so soon because your peace is not a negotiation. Please join us, terricole.com/boundary bootcamp. It's my most favorite course. I would love to hang out with you for the next 2 months. Check it out, see if it's for you, because you deserve to be seen, to be known, to be heard. And that's exactly what I will teach you to be in Boundary Bootcamp. I hope that this episode of The Terri Cole Show did something for you, added value to your life. Please go get the guide that I created for you, because it is all scripts, which I know you guys love, love, love. It's the Boundary Script Kit, 5 types of boundaries and what to say for each, terricole.com/guide. I hope you have the most amazing week. And as always, take care of you.